Hello everyone and welcome to a new video, and today I'm happy to actually summarize a new book. It's called Spark by John Brady. It's a really good book about exercise and literally how it causes physical changes in terms of the structure and function of the brain, and it talks about the benefits of exercise and physical activity. So I'd like to start by discussing a case study that was presented in the book. And it talked about how, there's a lot of research that's done on how exercise encourages neurons to bind to each other and allows the proper balance of molecules and neurotransmitters, for example, in the brain, allowing the brain to function properly and even enhance learning. And Naperville District 2003 in Chicago, which is a school, it's actually a district which contains several schools, like a high school, a middle school, etc., wanted to test out, and they had this gym class called the 0-hour PE fitness class. And they wanted to see if physical activity enhances learning. And indeed, students were more awake and focused during these, when they performed the physical activity. And they actually scored 17% higher on reading and literacy in the 0-hour group versus in the standard phys ed class, which was not as intense. And both of these were relative to if they didn't have that physical activity class at all. So there's definitely improvements in terms of reading and comprehension. And intensity does matter, as this showed. And when the classes were right in after the gym, students do even better than if there was a big gap. So it's a good idea to schedule the hardest subject right after exercise. And the most amazing results were in 1999 with 8th grader subject doing the TIMSS, which stands for the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. So the TIMSS assesses your knowledge in math and science. And so the Naperville students scored the first amongst 38 other countries. And other places that adopted a similar style, such as Titusville, Pennsylvania, had similar improvements in test results. Literally, the Naperville students scored the highest among 38 countries. We're even talking about Asian countries and Japanese, and all of those were also included. And still, the Chicago people scored the highest. And this movement actually began by Phil Lawler in 1990, who noticed an obesity epidemic in the US and wanted to change how things were done in that school in Chicago. And he really didn't like how students were inactive during gym, sitting in the benches, not playing sports, waiting to bath, etc. They were inactive a lot of the time. And he changed his approach where students were tested on the effort rather than on the skill. So students had to give their personal bests and their best efforts, and their grades were based on how much they tried. And the classes were engaging and explained the benefits of physical activity to students, and even taught life lessons such as social skills and self-esteem and confidence, etc. through these sports, like through dancing, through kayaking, through rock climbing, etc. So these students were very engaged, and they also learned these lessons, how to make friends, how to pay attention to other people, right? These life lesson skills. He even tried to convince the U.S. Senate, actually, Lawler, to make changes to the gym in schools in the U.S. And it was problematic, and he saw it, and he really wanted to make changes. He knew that only 6% of schools even offered PE classes at all, and how kids spent 5.5 hours in front of screens and in front of their devices. So things changed in 2001 to 2002, where 97% of Naperville kids were normal weight based on the CDC results. And the results were even better in the 2005 class, where Craig Broder, a sports psychologist, showed that only 1 out of 130 people were obese, and they were much better in terms of fitness than the national norm. So after noticing this and beginning that movement in 1990, clearly there are already big results a decade after. So this clearly shows, although yes, these Naperville students, their parents had more income, had better and had jobs that are more academic and intellectual, but still these results were very interesting. And after implementing this program, students' grades improved in literacy, in math, and of course through the TIMSS test it was seen in math and science, and definitely their weight was much better, and very few students were obese, which was a huge problem at that time in the United States in general. But this school had rates that are literally sky bottom, like even probably less than in places where obesity is super low. And so there's this crazy extreme between huge rates of obesity in the US and this school, which was literally like plummeted rates, super low in terms of obesity. And a 2001 study in California, this famous CDE study, showed that kids that were fitter actually did twice better academically and had higher grades. The study even factored in socioeconomic factors later on in 2002. A mega review done in 2004 of 850 studies showed similar results and even recommended children to participate in at least 1 hour of moderate to intense, to vigorous, activity per day. And Naperville even served as a training academy as part of a non-public organization to make gyms mandatory because of its importance. And literally 1,000 educators from 350 schools were involved. And this organization was called PE for Life. I have the notes in the description so you guys can also look through it after you watching the video. And again, this is so important to do because again, only 6% of the classes actually even offered gym. Okay, so only 6% had it. Later on, an individual by the name of Charles Hillman looked at 3rd and 5th graders to do a study that parallels what the CDE in California do. Again, CDE showed that if you have higher performance, if you engage in physical activity, you have high performance in school. In fact, you score twice higher on test results. And so Hillman showed very similar results. It's just that he did his study with 3rd and 5th graders rather than with the 9th graders, I believe, which were used in the CDE study. But he showed very similar results with students getting better grades if after they engaged in physical activity. And he even showed more brain activity in the EEG for things like attention, working memory, and processing speed. He also noted more activation in the prefrontal cortex, which indicated better ability to correct their own mistakes. So PE for Life educators were even shaped schooling in other schools for other states, for example, for the better. For example, Titusville, Pennsylvania, I talked about it briefly before, students scored 17% higher in reading and 18% higher in mathematics after the program began. And then also in the inner city of Iowa, disciplinary problems reduced by 67%. And in Kansas City, Missouri, violence incidents reduced from 228 to 95 a year. So not only there was improvements in attention, memory, processing speed, and executive functioning, behavioral issues reduced dramatically after these schools began incorporating physical activity into their regimens. So good news, you don't have to be a kid to get the benefits. You can be an adult and still benefit from better learning, improved cognition, etc. If you're going into school, of course you can benefit as well to do better academically and have better grades. But adults can also benefit from physical activity for sure. Not only it will give you better cognition, memory, and executive functioning. As you'll see in future videos, there's a whole slew of other benefits as well, like better mood, for example. So in the next video, I will delve into the science of physical exercise and the brain. Stay tuned.